Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast. This is your host, Jacob Fail, the most interesting marketer. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Rachel Pedersen. She is a 2 Comma Club award winner. She's been on all the biggest names, Inc., Neil Patel, tons and tons of different publications, was in Russell Brunson's Inner Circle, and has done tons of amazing things with herself. So Rachel, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, and let's go all the way back to your childhood and what it was like growing up. I know I read somewhere where you were a pastor's kid. So tell me what that experience was like, and with you growing up around that, and how that it has affected your life now.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad was a youth pastor from the time I was born to the time I want to say 11. And so what's interesting is my dad was the youth pastor. My mom was the worship pastor. And so I was raised kind of performing in a way. One thing that anyone who's listening to this who's a PK understands is that there's a lot of pressure put on you as the kid of a pastor. And so you're expected to show up a certain way. You're expected to smile, meet a lot of people that you have no interest in talking to. But what was great about it is my mom always taught me about how to connect with people and how to build relationships, how to present yourself and how to smile and be really congenial. So my mom gave me some amazing skills during that time. And I learned a lot of speaking from my dad because he was always speaking at youth camps or even at church. And so I learned a lot about things that have served me in my business from that time in my life. But it was also really challenging because when my parents started to leave the ministry, they actually went through a 5-year-long separation and divorce. So they would get together, separate again, get back together, separate. And so for 5 years, from the time I was 13 to 18, it was really unstable in my household. And it was really volatile. It was a tough upbringing, but at the same time, it really taught me how to get through some really hard stuff. So yeah, it's played a huge part in who I am today for sure. Yeah.
Now tell me a little bit about, I guess this might be during the same time that you were going through this with your parents. I read somewhere where that you had a naval kind of boot camp experience. Tell me about that. I know not a lot of people know that about you.
They don't. So when I was in, I think it was end of middle school and then into high school, I joined the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps, which is a teen program that basically gives you leadership skills and helps you to become basically groomed for the military. And so I joined that. I really loved it. We had, our drill once a month. And then over the summer, we would go to different trainings. So my first year, I went to boot camp and spent 2 weeks in boot camps at the Great Lakes in Chicago, the naval boot camp facility. Oh, that was so hard because I am not very physically, naturally fit. And so I got my butt handed to me there, but I learned a lot about how to just shut up and have persistence. It was very intense. Whenever someone's oh my gosh, my leader's so mean, I'm have you been to boot camp? It is hard. But I also learned some amazing skills too. I went to scuba diving camp and I got to scuba dive in Lake Superior, and that was really neat. I went to a semaphore competition, which is where you're signing with the flags from one distance to another. And I also went to culinary training in California, feeding hundreds of people at a time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Crazy.
That's good to hear. Yeah, that I'm a scuba diver myself, so that's why I looked that up and I was oh wow, that's if I could do anything every single day, I would scuba dive, because that's my complete bliss. Because you're under the water, no worries, no cares. The only thing is just you and your thoughts, and not a lot of people get to experience that.
It's really intense. I will be honest, like I am really scared of water for
Mm.
some reason. Like water really freaks me out. The thought of like being underwater, I can't even like go in a pool and hold my breath. So
Yeah.
scuba diving was extra challenging because I was like fighting panic attacks, and like I also hate fish, so
Yeah.
it was like I'd see a fish and I'd be like, I want to surface, and they'd be like, you can't, like stay down. And so it was really intense, but it was a very good practice. I think I'd want to try it again at some point, as long as there's no sharks where we scuba dive. I
No,
think
that's the best. You need to have sharks. I took that's part of my mantra is, going into the deep and going into the unknown. And I actually dove with sharks down in Saint Martin and took a selfie with a shark. So you should
Whoa.
definitely try it at least once.
Okay, I'll take your word for
So,
it.
what how did you start your business? And let's talk a little bit about relationships too, because I'm married, and I want to talk a lot about how that you balance it and your relationship with Paul, and how that is how that goes with you being in business for yourself, because I know that that's a big topic for a lot of entrepreneurs. And
Yep.
I've had other two Comma Club award winners on the show, and they said there is no balance, which is kind of true, but you have to be able to still show them love and still show them attention. So talk a little bit about your relationship with him, and how that you met, how that you got started in your business, and how that you
Sure.
balance that.
So it was 6.5 years ago. I had just gotten out of a relationship with a pastor, as funny as that is. And I was like a single mom at this point, and I'm like, I don't know where my life is going to go, but I feel like I'm supposed to meet my husband at some point. And I actually went to a Bible study, and my husband went to that same Bible study, and we were being hooked up that night. Like people were hooking us up. They were like, you guys should
The
totally
blind
meet.
date.
Yeah, so we literally, it's crazy because we met and we fell in love. A week later, he professed his love for me, and he was like, I'm in love with you. And I was like, I know, I am too. Like, I'm so happy you feel that way. And then we were going to elope in like 6 months, or, do a small little ceremony. And all our friends and family like freaked out. They were like, this is way too soon. You can't do it. So we were like, you know what, forget everyone else. So 13 days after we met, we got married at the Mall of America in Minnesota at the Chapel
Wow.
of Love. And, we're going now on 6.5 years. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that for the world. But when we met, my husband was a window washer and I was a hairstylist. And I kind of felt like there was something else I wanted to do, and I just didn't know what it was. I hadn't really found my thing. I was very good at hair. I love doing hair.
Right.
But at the same time, I really wanted ownership in something. And one day a client came into the salon and she was like, we were talking about social media, and she's like, can you show me your tweeter? And I was like, wait, what? Like, sorry, hold on. Basically, she had no idea about social media, and they were like, can we hire you to come by and like teach us social media for our business? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I can. And so it was really neat because that was my first client. And then I jumped into marketing fully, like not ever looking back. I jumped into working at an agency, even though I had no experience and no degree. But I learned really fast and got some big results. And that was, gosh, I want to say like 5.5 years ago. And I've been in my business full time now, going into my 5th year. So it is interesting working with your spouse. I will say it took us a long time to find our groove. And I get really serious about that because at first it was really painful. There was no balance. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. We were as far as it gets when it comes to our relationship. And so as I accepted my first 2 Comma Club award, I was literally like, my marriage is on the rocks. I'm about to have a baby. That was our 3rd kid. And I was like, I just feel like this wasn't worth it. But at the same time, that's when we started to grow close to each other. And so for us, what's worked really, really well is actually bringing Paul into the business. And it has been so cool over the last 2 years, seeing him growing into being someone who takes ownership in their work. And he has like developed skills he didn't ever have before. He's actually a high school dropout. So I think it's extra cool to see him grow into this role of COO and seeing him lead our team side by side with me. But I've also gotten to see him grow personally. And so it's interesting because while a lot of people say there's no balance, we really fight to have our weekends free, 100% from work. And that's a choice we have to make every single weekend. I could work all weekends all the time, but my family wouldn't love that. And then also every day at 6 o'clock, I shut off and I don't do any more work. So those have been two things that have really helped us a lot. But even working together has helped us to get so much closer because we have the same mission in mind every single day.
Yeah, that's good to hear that you have found that groove and found that balance, because I know a lot of people that, they just work all the time, and it puts their relationships and, in strain. And that's good to hear that, shutting off at certain times, it helps keep that balance and keep everyone happy. So you're originally from Michigan, correct?
Minnesota, so close.
Minnesota.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Kind of the same, but kind of not.
So that's where you grew up, and that's where you live currently, right?
Yep. We actually just got like a huge snowfall the other day. So we have like inches of snow outside. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was snowing down here in New Mexico too the other day. It's like the world ending with all this stuff.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So tell me a little bit about some of the successes that you had. I know that you had grew a skincare company with 6,700% our return on
growth.
investment. Yeah, and took several clients viral. You were viral yourself, and you got tweeted by, I think, Ashton Kutcher or somebody. And tell me about all those stories and all those different things that you've done in your past and since you've launched your business.
Yeah. So it was when I was submitting my notice to my job, when it was time to go full time, literally that week, one of my posts on Facebook went viral. And I mean, true viral. It reached 11.3 million people. I remember on a Sunday, the Today Show called me, and I thought it was my friends pranking me, because I was like, there's no way. But it was featured in Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post, in 39 different online publications. And then it was even in a book. I mean, I've been to Barnes and Noble and I opened this book and I'm like, my story's in here. This is so cool. Ashton Kutcher shared it. George Takei shared it. So many amazing celebrities shared it. And I was like, this is insane. But it didn't necessarily bring a huge ROI. So it was interesting because it definitely made me more visible in especially online communities, but it didn't necessarily do anything for us. But we've had some awesome successes for our clients. And, when I first got started, we had a client that was this natural food company. And I helped them to win awards on social media, literally with just really perfectly crafted tweets. And they won, in the UK, they have this SBS award. They won that. And then she also won the Women of Wednesday award. So it was really neat to see those things happen. And then as we continued to grow the business, we started really getting huge results for our clients. We grew MIG Skincare, which a lot of people know because it's a 2 Comma Club winning company. We grew them from, I think it was $4,000 to $6,000 months in revenue to a $286,000 month. And now she's gone on to do, I think, over 5 million, which is really powerful. We grew Christy Code Red from 300,000 a year to 3 million in just 11 months. And we work with a bunch of other 2 Comma Club winners, and we've had some really huge success, and it's kind of crazy still,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Now, what are some challenges that you've had in your business? Because people always hear the wins, and we love talking about the wins, but I want to dig deep. What has been some struggles and some challenges that you've faced over the past years? And a lot of people, they see the face of the brand, they see Rachel, they see all these other 2 Comma Club winners, and I really think that it's important for people to hear the struggles and dig deep into that, because everybody, they face their own trials and tribulations. So talk a little bit about some of your struggles and some of the pitfalls that you've had over the past.
Oh my gosh. So I remember right after I left my 9 to 5, I got notice from my biggest client that they weren't going to be continuing, and I freaked out. So I've always up until the last probably 6 months, I've always had anxiety and depression. And that's been a huge part of my life since I was 11 years old. And so what's interesting is I had this massive fog of depression all the time because I'm like, what if this fails? Like, what if I totally let my family down? And so I was dealing with myself and going through that and learning to rebuild after losing my biggest client. So that was a really, really scary time. Another huge challenge was obviously me and Paul figuring out like what our groove was. And, you know, like a lot of people don't know this, but right before Dominic was born, we were like considering divorce. And it wasn't because any big thing had happened. It was just a lot of little breakdowns. And thankfully we found Stacy Martino. She's also a 2 Comma Club winner. She's amazing. And her and Paul's program literally helped us to save our marriage and end up having a really passionate, amazing marriage. So one thing that has been huge is always looking for solutions and not just accepting something bad that's happening as like, oh, this is final, this is fact. Another huge challenge, this was about a year ago, we were in Jamaica and we had both businesses just kicking and thriving and awesome things were happening. And suddenly we got a text message from our then business partner and CEO of one of the businesses. And he was like, hey guys, I'm leaving. And we were supposed to spend, 7 days in Jamaica enjoying. And it was like suddenly, oh my gosh, we had to suddenly take on a second company. And so that was a huge challenge. That one was one that tested every fiber of my being. Like, do you really want this? Are you serious about this? Are you willing to go through the painful growth? Because I'm going to just say it was painful.
Yeah.
Oh, I have like some videos. I recorded videos during that time. I would just like pull open my camera and I would just record myself crying because I was like, I don't know what else to do. I don't have anyone I can share this with. And so what's awesome was my team got to watch as like Paul stepped in and really stepped up and supported me as I healed and grew through that experience. And I think that is one of the challenges people don't prepare you for, is that you're going to have to face all of your own skeletons in the closet, all your demons, all your past traumas, but it's also the most beautiful process in the whole world if you're willing to go through it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a huge thing too, is like people, they don't realize that our internal battles are some of the biggest ones, right? Us as entrepreneurs, we're running our own companies, we have our team, but we have to sail the ship. We're the captain of the ship. If we fail our team, we fail our family, we fail everything. And, it's like Russell Brunson says, the greatest thing, that we have is bankruptcy, because it gives you to start over again, right? So you can do it, you can do everything to the fullest extent. But, a lot of people, they battle that depression and anxiety, me included. And I think that's great. We actually on 2 of my episode previous, we talked about the anxiety and the depression that entrepreneurs go through. On that,
And that's, like I said, the one thing I didn't expect. I thought I'd be able to just like suppress all that junk down and like, maybe I'll go through therapy once we're making billions of dollars, but that's not how it worked. I know so a lot of my team members have actually known me for years, which is really cool. Like my assistant, Kellyanne, she's, my left-hand person. I say left because I've got a right hand and a left-hand person. And she's known me, oh my gosh, we've been close for 12 years. So we were kind of raised like sisters. And she says it's one of the craziest things to have known me through the journey of being a single mom and then discovering how much I've grown as a leader. And now she's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool seeing Paul grow as a leader. And, they've gotten to see that journey. My right-hand person, Jess, I've known her since I was in my 9-to-5. We connected in an online community. So she's also got to see this journey. But the biggest thing that stops you from growth is you and you alone. So I wish sometimes you could pass the buck and be like, can someone else just take responsibility for a second, please? But it doesn't work that way. And truth be told, the best gifts in the world come from facing those things.
Yeah, definitely. And now what do you say as far as you've had lots of success, right? So what's the biggest thing that separates people that aren't successful from the people that are successful?
Okay, there's only one thing. Are you ready for it?
Drop the bomb.
They don't give up.
That's right.
Oh, I know that's not glamorous. That was like one of the biggest woes for me ever, was like, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me if I just keep going beyond when people think I will, and beyond when I think I can't do it anymore, that it all starts to work out. Yes, you have to keep going. And as long as you don't quit, you will not fail. It just is going to look different. You might pivot a little bit, but if you don't give up, no one can stop you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you manifest your own reality too, right? A lot of people, they think it's kind of hokey or it's, like not real. But if you think about things and you meditated on it, like I've had some people on this podcast that I never thought that I would get on here, and just like manifesting some of that stuff into reality, and it just becomes natural. And because everybody, like, I mean, you look at some of the billionaires out there, right? They're normal everyday people. They just have a bigger bank account. They're not untouchable. They're not unreachable. Same thing with like Gary Vee, Russell Brunson, all the names out there. Like they're just people. We all bleed red. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize that, and they don't think about their future. Most people clock in and clock out every single day. And as soon as they get off, they get home, they unwind, they watch TV, and their brain shuts off. They have no drive. They've been, they coached into that,
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually don't think it's hokey at all to talk about like what you manifest. And what's neat is that because of my background and my own faith, I've studied manifestation and vision on 3 different levels. On the woo-woo,
Right.
on the faith side, I've looked at actually, like, for those who are like Christians watching this, I've looked at Jesus's words and I'm like, this lines up with everything I'm learning about manifestation and beautiful abundance. And then I've also studied it on a science, kind of a science playing field. And so it's interesting because it is backed by all 3, which is so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Because we are an electromagnetic field. We have that energy. We have that, I'm a Christian as well. So seeing some things that have happened in my life and other people's lives, and, it's just crazy to see how some of that stuff comes to be. If you think about it, you pray about it, you meditate on it, and, different things like that to, get you to that next level,
For sure. Absolutely.
So what are some things that you think Rachel Pedersen is going to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Ooh. There's so much. It's interesting because I just wrote out some new goals for the next year.
Yeah.
And so just from a business standpoint, like we're going to do our first $10 million 12 months by April 10th of 2021. So we're really excited about that. I know we're going to go into like real estate too, but also having the business and then real estate. I think that you can expect to see, as crazy as it sounds, see me on TV. I know that that's going to be in the near future. I just don't know exactly when, with the kids being young. Yeah. And then also just seeing me showing up really consistently over the next 3 to 5 years is going to be huge. I know this year I'm going to surpass 1 million TikTok followers. I'm going to surpass 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and I want to grow my email list to 300,000. So there's a lot of growth that's going to happen this year alone. I haven't even really thought about 3 years from now. I just know what the vision looks like. I haven't written down like the tangible steps of what that is going to look like though.
Yeah. Now, speaking on vision and vision boards, how important has that been to your success, since we're on the topic of manifesting?
Oh my gosh, there has never been something I've written down on a goal sheet that hasn't come true. And so I remember one day Paul and I were looking at my old goals and they had all happened. And he goes, I think you should write down goals more because they all happened. So can you like make some bigger goals? And I was like, sure. It's huge. I think it's really big because it's so easy to get lost in the weeds and to feel like, is this even making progress? But when you have these visions and goals and then you take action towards them, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. So I literally vision board and goal cast everything that I want to happen, at least for a year, any given year.
Yeah. So do you do short-term goals as well, like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or just 12?
Just 12 months. But a lot of my goals are really like almost they seem impossible, if that makes sense.
Right.
So for example, like YouTube, when I made that goal of 100,000 subscribers, I only had like 3,000 subscribers. And it was like, well, this is going to be hard. But like today, I think by the end of today, I'll be crossing 14,000 subscribers. And so it's happening really fast and it's snowballing. So I like to create big goals, because little goals, I'm like, you know, those are priorities for the day. These are my little steps throughout the day. I don't as much make the little goals. It's more like action steps each week and each day.
Right. What's over the top and absolutely crazy that I can try and accomplish. And I think that's great. I'm more into the bucket list stuff now too, because I've been watching one of my old favorite TV shows. It's called The Buried Life. I don't know if you ever saw that on MTV back in the 90s, but you should check it out. It's on Amazon. But basically it's 4 guys. They get together, they find out their goals and their things they want to do before they die. And what they do is they go, they're traveling in an RV, and they travel around, and for everything that they check off their bucket list, they help someone else with their bucket list. So that, you know, they ask them what do they want to do before they die. It could be meet a family member, ride a roller coaster, whatever, and they help them with that, which is pretty incredible. So with that, I know we're running out of time, so I want to ask you one final question since we're on the topic of bucket list. What would Rachel Pedersen want to be known for if today was your last day?
If today was my last day, I would want to be known for helping 1 million people to believe in themselves and their dreams and take action on them.
That's awesome. I love that.
So cool.
All right, perfect. So how can people reach out to you? How can they get a hold of you? And tell me about that.
For sure. Easiest way to find me is on my website, rachelpedersen.com, all E's and a D in my last name. And you can find everything from my social channels to my free content. I put out a lot of free value, so you can check out all of that on my website.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
It was good having you on the Whiskey Winners podcast, and I look forward to doing a second episode with you.
Awesome.
Maybe a little bit longer next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really.